Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KipBadger.com, out here for another episode of the 2021 Coast to Coast Tour. Picking up where we left off in Huntsville, Alabama, having finished our range day there. It's time for kind of a down day. And my buddy Jay, who works for NASA, basically a rocket surgeon, ballistic kinetics over there on Instagram, awesome guy. He ended up actually getting us tickets for the Space and Rocket Center because Huntsville, Alabama is Rocket City U.S.A. A lot of really amazing stuff going on with rockets, NASA, everything like that. Especially over at the Redstone Arsenal, I guess it is. So we ended up going over there and checking it out. Cruising through, checking out all the different exhibits. After wrapping up our tour of the Space and Rocket Center, it was time to start grinding out some more miles. We had actually spent more time there than we had anticipated, so got back on the road, even though shortly thereafter we stopped to go fill up another 60 plus gallons of diesel, and then again get back on the road. Started driving, I guess kind of northeast, cutting from Alabama briefly into Tennessee, and then cutting back southeast again, I guess it would be, into Georgia, before cutting north again into Tennessee. And then cruising up, I guess, north of Chattanooga. So the previous night, I was hanging out with a couple friends, and they're like, hey, there's this amazing spot you can go swim. It's called Blue Hole something or other, basically north of Chattanooga. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Like, I would love to do that. So we ended up driving up there. They probably didn't think much of it as far as like, hey, you're not driving like a little compact car. So sure enough, end up turning down into this, and it's like the most narrow thing ever. Definitely not designed for like RVs, let alone buses. And in my mind, like most places like that, they're set up for RVs, like people on vacation, stuff like that. And so usually if you drive to the end, they'll have like a giant roundabout or something like that. This did not have that, and it turned into a production trying to basically back all the way out and then getting out back to the main road. But once you're on the main road, you couldn't, like there wasn't enough room to turn to go back down the mountain. So we had to start going up the mountain. And we're basically crawling up this incredibly steep grade at like 10 miles an hour, giant line of cars behind us. I was out of patience at that point. Between that and my boy's behavior earlier in the day, it was not the best part of the road trip thus far. Probably the worst day to date. Just getting worn down, being the only driver too. Finally, we got to a spot where we could basically nose into this other road, block traffic, get backed up, drive back down to town, scratch that entire stop, and then try and figure out where we needed to get to. It was a rough day. Back down there, looked at the map after grabbing some supplies, started driving. And finally, I don't know, it was a long drive. Driving up and over through the Smoky Mountains, finally making our way to, I believe it's Asheville, Tennessee. Didn't get in until about like 10:30 at night, and everyone was pretty hungry. So we ended up walking down. There was like a Chili's down the road. It was closed, even though it said it was open. And then there was this other place, massive line, and so we're like, you know what? Let's just walk over to Waffle House. And actually went over to Waffle House. Might have been one of the cleaner ones. We had actually stopped at one earlier that was just like disgusting over in Mississippi, and no one there wanted to work. They're literally like, hey, your waitress isn't here yet, so probably about 15 minutes. It's like, oh, God forbid you take our order. Whatever, pay for what you get, right? But actually had a pretty good meal there at Waffle House. Came back up and crashed out for the night in the Days Inn. Probably one of the nicer hotels we've been in. But that right there wraps up kind of that day. Honestly, it was one of the longer, rougher days. I've been having a lot of fun with my boys, but it also tries my patience a lot. And yesterday, my patience was definitely tried, to include just all the driving, everything else stacking up. But it is what it is, man. Like, another day on the road, and yeah, hopefully today, as I'm filming this, the morning following the day we just talked about, hopefully it'll be a good day. But that right there wraps up this episode of 2021 Coast to Coast Tour, and as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.